Okay. Let's call the meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bravado? Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Diemko? D'Amico? Miss DeAndrea?
Here.
Mr. Kella?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Shatina?
Here.
Mr. Walden? Mr. Strong?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is the duly advertised meeting of the Joliet Plan Commission for May 2014. We've only got one item on the agenda. It's somewhat of a complicated item in the fact that the first one, A1314, really is three actions we're taking. We're talking about the annexation of 4 acres west of Brandon Road. The second would be the classification of that 4 acres to an I-2 general industrial district. And then thirdly, the approval of an annexation agreement to annex that property into the city of Joliet. In addition to that, we're also seeking a preliminary plat to subdivide that property from the remainder of the Gallagher asphalt site, and that's going to be case P514, the preliminary plat of the Joliet Battery subdivision. In this case, the applicant is Glide Path Power LLC. They're the contract purchasers of the 4 acres and the development of that 4 acres as well. The owners of the property, it's in a trust, First Midwest Bank Trust number 89-3748, and that is the Gallagher Asphalt Corporation as the trustee. The requested action is the approval of the annexation, that classification to the I-2, the approval of the annexation agreement, and the approval of a preliminary plat. And the purpose is to develop with a battery stability system to the power grid. It currently is zoned in unincorporated Will County and industrial zoning. Its location is west of Brandon Road. The size is 4 acres. It's currently undeveloped land. Surrounding land use and zoning is to the north industrial utilities in unincorporated Will County. To the south would be undeveloped IT. To the east is residential and undeveloped unincorporated Will County. To the west is industrial unincorporated Will County. Under site history, we could find no previous cases. Special information. The approval of the proposed annexation, the annexation agreement, the zoning classification, and the preliminary plat of the subdivision will allow the future industrial development of the subject site with a battery stability system for PJM Interconnection, LLC, which is a regional transmission organization and includes ComEd territory and the transmission grid. The PJM regulation market is one of the ancillary service markets that help ensure sufficient resources are available to respond to instantaneous fluctuations in system frequency, and then it goes on to explain that, and voltage as well. As an energy infrastructure developer, GlidePath is satisfying a grid regulation requirement using dry cell batteries enclosed in racks and containers with onboard monitoring in real time, which includes fire safety. The battery containers are standalone and do not require personnel on site. The result is a very little activity and virtually no traffic after the construction is complete. The 2-lot minor subdivision includes a portion of the Gallagher asphalt property, which will not be annexed at this time. A 20-foot service road from Brandon Road through the Gallagher asphalt property would be constructed, and that would be done with grindings and tar and oil and chip to access the site. City water and sewer is available, and that's less than a mile away at Laraway and Brandon, but is not needed for this proposal. If needed in the future, the new development will be required to pay sewer and water connection fees. Development impact fees will be required at the building permit time. Detachment fees for the fire and library are not required. The Community Design Review Board reviewed this matter at their meeting on May 1st, and their minutes are attached, and that concludes our staff report.
Thank you. Could we have the petitioner on this item, please? Please state your name and address for the record.
Dan Foley. I live at 224 Mason Court, Elmhurst, Illinois.
Did you have anything to add to staff's report?
I have a presentation to go through if you'd like me to do that.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me here. We're really excited about these projects. We're actually building 3 of these projects in the Chicago metropolitan area, battery storage projects. And so I think one of the questions is, what exactly does this project do, right? And what this project is it's the equivalent of a shock absorber on a car. So if there's bumps in the system, in the PJM system or the ComEd system, what it does is it smooths out those bumps. And it adds reliability and stability to the system. This system is, it provides services, ancillary services to the PJM system that use existing technology. This technology has been around for a while. It's just a new application for existing technology. And I have examples of the batteries, if you'd like to see them. You can pass them around.
What are your plans for the actual construction of the facility?
The plants.
No, like, I understand that you're going to have racks of these batteries. What are you going to use as the structure?
So the shipping containers, and we actually have a picture of it. Here you go. What it happens is those batteries are in modulars that are in racks that are in shipping containers. So you can see the white containers there, and then we will put them on concrete pilings.
Jim, does the city allow the use of shipping containers for construction?
Normally, we don't, but in this case, these things are going to be in structure only a shipping container. They're going to be fully reinforced and fully anchored to the ground, so it's not like they're just going to be sitting there. These will have a full foundation, so in essence, it would be like building a building, but out of convenience, because they don't need like a purpose-built structure that these containers can work that way. And the other thing about it, too, is they could interchange out. If something goes bad with one of the modules, they could change it out, swap it out, very much like you'd swap batteries in your flashlight. So that was one of the reasons why that we were going for this type of technology. But yes, because they're going to be permanently anchored to the ground or semi-permanently anchored to the ground, yes, they could use it.
Are these going to be fenced and screened then from neighboring projects?
Yeah, the interesting thing about this site, and Jim, I don't know if you could go back to it, but when they first came in and I went out to look at the site, they have to be in very close proximity to the high tension lines. The high tension lines are to the rear of the property. Believe it or not, Gallagher's site is very, very deep. And when you go in, you can kind of see that. You drive through the Gallagher gate and you drive through their material storage area. And when you come to a sort of a dead end where all the materials are stored in the back end, you still cannot see this location from that location. You'd have to walk, it seemed like at least a quarter mile, get back to this site in question. And if you remember, we just annexed back in, would have been this past October, the site farther to the west that was part of that CenterPoint brought in the old Olin Woods, what they called it. It was part of the Port of Will County.
Right.
We annexed that into the city. That's going to be developed. You approved that this past October. So this is really going to be sort of a site that's right now is somewhat isolated. It's got a tree line. They're going to keep the trees. That was part of this. They're going to be in a tree easement, and it's going to be far removed from any public road. It's going to be far removed from visibility. So it really is tucked in along the high tension lines. And when I paid my visit out to Gallagher, you could not see even the high tension towers from that halfway into the Gallagher property. So it doesn't need any of that as well.
Is it your intention to fence them off for safety?
Yes.
Okay, then I think that would be
And
enough.
I think
And in the future, if we wanted to screen.
Yeah, and it was going to be chain link with barbed wire on top of it. So it's very secure facility.
Any alarm systems or anything like that?
Yes, the whole system will be continuously monitored and operated on a 24/7 basis. We monitor each individual string, the modules, so we can control it remotely as well.
And that'll go directly, to the police department?
Right now, it doesn't go directly to the police department. It goes directly to an operator. If there was an issue, we could call from our operations center. We would call the police or the fire department.
It just seems that it's so remote, it'd be a larger chance for, vandalism or what, and that should be putting out a lot of electricity out there, availability of same.
Actually, sometimes it stores electricity and sometimes it's putting out electricity, and there are actually no physical electrical lines that can be touched out there other than the service drop from ComEd. So ComEd has a line, it comes down like a normal commercial building into the site, and then everything goes underground.
So everything that you're going to feed out to ComEd or whatever is done through this line?
It is done through the overhead line, but everything from the meter on is underground.
Jim, are you done? I didn't mean to jump in on you.
Go ahead.
Are these structures gonna be single-story, all of them?
Yes.
Okay? And I guess I'm still not grasping who draws energy from this?
Really nobody. Again, what happens is like they said, that this is gonna give reliability in the existing power system. Because what happens, and the way they explained this to me, and again, I'm no expert, I just listened to the presentation they made.
Reliability to the existing power.
Correct.
And what is the existing power?
All of us. You know how in our neighborhood, Rose, how we get the power knocked out all the time for any little reason?
Oh, I know.
Seems like a bird chirps and the power goes off.
Yes.
Well, hopefully this is gonna be one solution to that problem. I know there's a lot of them. But in this particular case, what they were saying is that, what they told us was, with the advent of the solar power and the advent of wind power, those are somewhat unreliable sources of energy. When the wind blows, especially if gusts of wind come, it challenges the system with maybe too much power. And then when the wind stops, abruptly stops, then the stuff slows down. Or when the sun's out, it's feeding the solar panels, and when the clouds come out or nightfall comes, it drops off. Well, what this technology will do is keep those spikes from happening. So it'll put out power at a time when there's a lull in the power, and it will absorb power when there's big spikes in the system. So again, it's beyond my pay grade to understand exactly how all of this stuff operates, but from what they're telling me, it's necessary. They have to be close to the power grid. You can't have it miles away from the power grid. This was a convenient spot. And the reason we found it most attractive is because it's so far removed from access from the road, from visibility from the road. It's in an industrial area. If somebody asked me, where would you put something like this, you could not find a better location.
Next door to an asphalt plant's a pretty nice
Correct.
spot.
Now, the other thing that I should add, because it probably won't come up in their conversation, but they're buying a piece of ground, 4 acres from the Gallagher Asphalt folks. The Gallagher Asphalt folks, and Mike Hansen's here to represent them, have a large tract of land that they're only using not even half of it. This may precipitate the development of the remainder of that property. They're gonna put in a service road to get back to this facility that's gonna go across the entire top end of this property. That may get other industrial or commercial development on the remainder of that site.
And I know Mike is representing Gallagher, which
Yes.
is,
Your Honor?
I do trust that.
Yes.
But I have one other question.
Sure.
We're getting I-2 zoning here.
Right.
I-2 zoning allows for outside storage.
Yes, it does. I-1 does as well.
All right. Are you storing equipment besides these facilities?
No, ma'am. All of the equipment that will be on site are either batteries, inverters, or transformers that will be used to operate the system. There's no additional
heavy
storage.
equipment,
No.
no trucks.
No moving parts.
Yeah, and all of those accessories will be in the storage container, so there will be nothing out. And again, this will operate very much like a transformer station that ComEd has everywhere. And you won't notice much of a difference between an actual ComEd transformer station and a facility like this, except they have the transformer equipment, which is a little bit different in appearance than a shipping container painted up to match.
I've been selling real estate for way too long.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever heard that anybody wants to be near high-tension wires,
Yes, exactly right.
ever.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. How do you earn your money
So,
from this particular site? How do you earn your money?
right, there's a grid operator, and it requires that the load purchase ancillary services. And this provides the ancillary services, so the grid operator actually runs a market, an auction, to do that. The alternative is to contract out long-term with some of the entities that provide power to your house or to your large commercial industrial folks. So you may have heard names like Direct Energy or Suez that are third-party suppliers of energy. They would buy this on a long-term contract as well.
there's gotta be a downside here somewhere. We're hiding it behind Gallagher's a very reputable company. I have no question about that.
Right.
You don't know these people. Why is it being hidden behind Gallagher Asphalt in a 4-acre setting?
The only reason that's back there is because proximity to the power grid. The high-tension lines run right through the back. These guys, naturally, you want it as close to the high-tension lines as you could get. There's no sense in paying for a lot of wires that, you know, go a half a mile away. You want it right next to the site. They found a site. Gallagher was interested in selling a portion of it. So, again, the two things worked hand in glove.
Are the inner workings inert? Is there any potential for any kind of blast or
No.
excess energy being emitted out into this
I'll let the experts respond.
I want to
to
hear
that.
him. Mike Hanson representing Gallagher, and I want to hear what Mike Hanson has to say before I vote. But I'm asking those questions. Where else do you do this?
So there are a few projects out there that do this. One's in West Virginia. It's about the same size as this one that we proposed.
Any you operate?
Pardon?
Any that you operate?
No,
Your-
GlidePath does not operate any of these, but there are batteries in all of the ComEd substations that perform a similar, not exactly the same, but a similar operation. This isn't new technology. It's just a new application for the technology.
Do we have any in this area?
No, not
Yes,
yet.
then I got another question.
Sure.
We get hit with some of this bad weather, these horrific storms that seem to be popping up, and they hit this system. Lightning hits this system. What's the repercussion?
So if it affects the system directly, it shuts down. If
That's just it, it shuts down.
it shuts down. If, let's say it hit the substation, or it hit a line on the substation. I think we've all been sitting in our house where we saw the lights go brown and come back up again. Our flat screen TVs pop off and the computers pop off. This actually mitigates that, in that it provides a little boost to the system so that you don't see those brownouts, so the computers don't drop out. And this is important for folks with processes where if the computers drop out, they have to restart the process, they lose product, or some controls, like Midway Airport actually has this issue, where if the voltage drops too low, their computers drop out, right? So there is an advantage, but if there's a direct hit to the station, it goes off.
Dan, I understand that the theory behind the technology, it's not that far off from, someone who has a residential well. You have to have a well tank to take the excess, give back to the system. But you started your presentation saying that there's 4 in the Chicago area.
We're developing 3.
Okay.
So we have 1 in Joliet, 1 in West Chicago, and 1 up in McHenry. And we strategically chose those places because of its location in the ComEd grid and its location at the particular voltage that we're going into. So there were certain characteristics of substations that we were looking for, and we wanted land within a certain proximity. So within 1,000 feet of the substation, so that the cost is lower and then it's more effective.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
One question, looking at this, you don't need city sewer, you don't need water, you're not gonna have basically people there as, or anything like that. What's the advantage for you to be in the city rather than to stay unincorporated?
We were to stay in the city of Joliet.
To be, come into the city of Joliet, it's not there now. I mean, what are you looking for from the city from this, that you wanna come into the city?
We felt that the city was more welcoming and the process was easier to get through than Will County. We're not looking for any subsidies or anything like that.
And
That's
Mr.
the
Moore, if I
question.
could, one of the things that we had talked about is that they were coming to the city because our process was so much faster, approval process was so much faster than the county's was. And time is very of the essence to them in their approval process. The other thing I'd like to add is that we did at Community Design Review Board, we reviewed this with Dave Mackley and Kevin Gar, who both do the fire safety analysis on all the new construction. And they were familiar with this type of technology. Again, I'm not, so I only know what my experts and their experts tell me. And they were comfortable with it because they're gonna have something like a halon system that should there be some overheating issue, that it can shut the process down, it can start up I guess I'd call it a fire suppression system, but this type of technology is not known to catch on fire at all. and they felt comfortable with everything that they saw.
And there's no
That's my
contamination
question.
escaping here.
No.
There's no airborne particulate.
Okay.
Thank you, that answered my question.
Mike wanted to-
Jim, I got a
Wanna
question
hear
on
from
the,
Mike.
since this preliminary plat's in the county,
Correct.
and we're only annexing one lot, how's it getting through the county without going through the county process?
Well, our process will go through the county process. They have to get sign-offs on the plat from, the road is the big thing, road access and whether to dedicate right away for Brandon Road, but they're okay with all of that stuff. Our process is,
Because we're leaving lot one in the county, so
Correct.
they're okay with that
Yes.
staying there without going through
Yes.
their process?
yes, and I think they've got a letter from the county highway commissioner to that effect. And again, that was the option. So much of this property had been annexed into the city of Joliet. Like I say, when they approached us about annexation of the 4 acres, well, it bumps up right against all that other property that we annexed through for the Port of Will County for Center Point back in October.
Yeah, I understand that, because the lot that they're on, will be in, but the rest of the subdivision will still be in the county.
That's correct. And people asked, have we ever done that before? And Joe will remember this, we did the Cronin subdivision up at Black Road and Essington Road. We annexed, we did plat approval on the whole thing, but Joe Cronin would only annex in the property that he sold. So as he sold the lot, he would annex it. As he sold another lot, he would annex it. And now we're up to the old Second Bank and everything down the hill is all in city limits. His farmhouse still sits outside of the city limits of Joliet. So yes, we have done it before. Not a problem with the taxing bodies, not a problem with 911 or emergency response. So that wasn't a problem. And John, either way, if they would have stayed in the county and gone through the county process or come to the city, they have to do the subdivision to be able to shave off the 4 acres from Gallagher and sell it to these
Right,
folks.
and they would still have to come for us, because they're
Correct.
within a mile and a half.
Mile and a
anyway,
half, so
yeah.
that they still would have had to come through at least the subdivision process.
Right.
And like I say, as long as they were coming here anyway for that, they thought, well, if we came through the whole process with annexation, zoning and annexation agreement, we can do it all at one clip.
Joe, I have just one more question. Has the fire department signed off on this, and have they looked at it in depth?
They don't sign off on it, but Dave Mackley and Kevin Garr. Kevin Garr was a career fireman that works for Dave Mackley. So, as you know, Dave Mackley and Kevin do all the fire review, and the guys in the firehouse don't do it. Everybody, Dave and his guys do it
I work with
in-house.
Dave.
And they have signed off on it, and they have had a discussion with the fire chief and Station 3, the commander at Station 3, because they would be the first ones to respond to any incident here.
Mr. Foley, are you buying this property or going to lease it from Gallagher?
I'm going to buy the property from Gallagher.
Okay.
You wanted to talk to Mike?
Very good. Do we have any comments or questions from the audience?
Yeah, members of the commission, Mr. Chairman, Mike Hanson, local attorney. As is mentioned earlier, I represent Gallagher Asphalt Company, the sale of this property. We've worked with Glide Path here for the last, I think, 8 months. It was on my recommendation that the Glide Path go to the city of Joliet. I think all the comments made by Mr. Haller have been right on point. As usual, the city has been extremely cooperative, really looked into this from the city's standpoint. I think it's a very safe use, extremely compatible with Centerpoint to the south, protecting everybody in that regard. Centerpoint is endorsing this as well. I think it's a great thing for the city of Joliet. These are good people to work with, and I would endorse this project personally as well as professionally. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I just want to get Mr. Hanson on record. You live here, and Gallagher's your client, and you have found no downside to this installation, and it doesn't affect your client in any adverse way that you're aware of. All right, thank you.
Very good. Hearing no other comments or questions, a motion is in order for A-3-14.
So moved?
Second?
Call the roll.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Ms. DeAndrea?
Yes.
Mr. Kella?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Shatina?
Aye.
Mr. Strong?
Aye. A motion is also in order for the preliminary plat P-5-14.
So moved?
Second?
Call the roll.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. D'Amico?
Aye.
Ms. DeAndrea?
Aye.
Mr. Kella?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Shatina?
Yes,
Mr. Strong?
Aye.
wake them all up.
All right. That was the one and only case that we had on the agenda. Next up would be the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Mr. Foley?
Aye.
Any discussions or any nays?
Yes.
And then we can, it's baseball time, so do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So move.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
See you, Joe. See you. Glad you could join us.